Welcome to Financial Flight Academy with Jon Schuetz and Brent Connelly from Soar Wealth Strategies. In this podcast, we inspire families and business owners to build a foundation for their financial future. We do this by listening and building trust with our clients. Join us for this journey where we explore ways to protect your nest and live out your dreams as Jon and Brent draw from years of experience and guest experts to help you take that leap of faith.
If you've never worked with a financial advisor, I just want to tell you, not all experiences are the same. And today, Brent, we're going to talk about what our process is if you want to take flight with the team from Soar Wealth Strategies. I'm Jon Schuetz.
And I'm Brent Connelly, and we want to welcome you once again to Financial Flight Academy, where we started Soar Wealth Strategies. We talked a lot about who we are and how we want people to think about this journey we take with them.
Yes, and it's, I think probably the best place to start with this is, number one, our guest had to cancel on us today. So we will get back eventually to the inspiring stories that we intended to do on this show. But our story, it inspires us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, hopefully it'll inspire you as well. But so I think we should start here with how we got our name. We're number one, we're both patriotic people. I have two sons in the Air Force. Brent, your grandfather was in World War II.
He was.
And that's why we settled on the eagle as a mascot. But as far as your grandfather, what was his name?
So his name was Vince Miller, and he is my maternal grandfather on my mom's side. And we were very close growing up. He would take me to, Omaha Royals baseball games, College World Series, very involved, help coaching me at Little League. And I'll never forget when he started to tell me the story, because he was in the war, and he actually got shot in the upper leg area, groin area, with a wooden bullet.
I would love to know the story behind that.
Yeah, right. And unfortunately, they were, taking fire where they were at, and really, obviously, very dangerous situation where his troops could not get him out. So they covered him with leaves and twigs and what they could find. And they told him they'd be back for him. And I recall him telling me that I think he laid there what probably felt for an eternity. I think it was a couple hours. And I'll never forget, he said he could hear, Germans around him speaking German.
Jeez.
But I'll be darned if his guys didn't come back and get him out of there. And unbelievable story. He was obviously very patriotic. He was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles to go play football. He played on the last football team here locally at Creighton University.
Yeah. Another Eagle, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And but he chose to go and, fight for his country. And so I always remember that when times get tough and think about the things that he went through and the other people that represent our country. So, pretty neat.
Yeah. It's a tremendous story. And I think you told me that happened in France. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. A great story. So this is where the Eagle came from. And from there, we still hadn't settled on a name. A lot of names are taken out there, folks.
We come up with a name and then, that's great. No, it's taken.
Yeah. In fact, I told Brent, I had written this whole big thing about who we are and here's the name. And he said, yeah, they're right down the street from me. So that was a lot of wasted time. But once we settled on the Eagle, I looked for quotes about eagles. And this one was the first one that popped up, and it really just struck us. It's from APJ Abdul Kalam, who was a former president of India. And the quote goes like this: "All birds find shelter during a rain, but eagle avoids rain by flying above the clouds. Problems are common, but attitude makes the difference." And when I read that and read it to Brent, we both just thought, man, this is the perfect metaphor for what we try to do for people. You think about all the noise in the world and the negativity, and there's always some reason why you shouldn't invest in some people's minds.
Yeah. And even on our website, we, I think there's something on there that says, we're your psychologists, we're your cheerleaders,
not licensed psychologists, but we do help out in that way.
But yeah, these things can be stressful. We don't want people to bury their head in the sand. We want them to come in and be honest with us. And part of our philosophy and process is getting to know them and how they feel about money, how they feel about investing, obviously what their goals are. But there's so many intangible things to this job that over the years we've learned that, or quite frankly, could be even more important than the actual investments themselves.
Right. Right. And when you take the CFP studies, which you are right now, Brent, and
Correct.
I have, of course, a lot of, when it comes to the investing side of things, we focus on the psychology of investing.
Mm-hmm.
And, losses are 3 times more powerful than gains
Right.
in people's minds. And so what we try to get people to focus on here is, let's focus on what we can control.
Mm-hmm.
We can't control whether the party you like is in office or not.
Mm-hmm.
We can't control policy at what your government is doing. We can't control that the world is a dangerous place. And I think that's one of our assumptions right now, that the world is a very dangerous place,
right,
when we talk about investing. But we can control the things that we do and how we react to those external forces.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, that's why the first thing that we do when we talk with, potential clients here is we want to have what's called a fit meeting. And that fit meeting is basically just a get to know you session. We want to make sure that we're a fit for you potentially as a client, and vice versa, because it doesn't do anybody good if we're not on the same page.
Right. That's where our process starts,
right.
is the fit meeting. So it's 30 minutes. We try to keep it to 30 minutes because we don't want to create any hostage situations here. And it's just to learn about you and for you to learn about us. And no commitments are being made at or immediately after that fit meeting. We want you to go home. We want you to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to really try and determine, are these the people that we want to trust with our finances?
Mm-hmm.
And we're okay with, we would really like to get it out of the way at the beginning and find out, if you think, this is not right for us.
Yeah.
We're okay with that.
So many years of this business was purely transactional. And I think as things change over time.
You mean just in the financial services industry in general?
Exactly.
Yes.
And now it's certainly more relationship building. We truly care about our clients and want to partner with them. And we've seen it all. We've seen, celebration of births of children, grandchildren, and
deaths, delivering life insurance checks.
Oh my goodness. Right. Celebrating retirement, right. It's a journey. It's a process. And you have to make sure that you surround yourself with the people that are going to be there through the good and the bad times.
Right. So we will call you 2 days after that fit meeting just to find out what you thought, and we'll tell you what we thought. And so the question is, well, we try to find out what you're looking for,
mm-hmm.
but we're also looking for something in a fit as
mm-hmm.
well. And I think it's important for folks to know that we don't want to be all things to all people.
Right. You
can't create a good service model when you're trying to service everyone.
Yeah. And I'd like to address maybe some preconceived notions too about advice. Well, I don't have enough money to work with you, or I have a little bit of debt that I'm scared to share or whatnot. We want to hear about everything.
And we've heard it all. And this is a no judgment zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we talk about, the 3 A's, right? We talk about attitude, we talk about ability, and we talk about assets.
Right.
So let's touch on the attitude first.
So we want you to have 2 of those 3 things at minimum if you're going to be a client here at Soar Wealth Strategies, because again, we don't want to be all things to all people. We want to be all things to a few people.
Right.
So because we want to be able to dedicate the appropriate amount of time to our clients. So the one of the 3 that you must have is attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad one. A good attitude.
Right.
And what do we mean by that? We want nice people.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to mistreat anyone in our office, like our office staff, you're not welcome here. That's just the way it is.
Right.
We want to work with people who will take advice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to implement every suggestion that we give you? No, you do not. We bring ideas to the table. We expect you to listen to them and consider them.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, you are the final decision maker on what you do with your finances.
Right. And again, it's not a me, it's a we philosophy. We work together, right? We want to partner with you. And that attitude sets the tone. There's going to be times we're going to have to soar above those clouds.
Correct.
When there's turmoil.
I don't know if you heard about the markets last year, Brent, but
No.
they were not very good.
Oh, they weren't?
No, they were down some. Just a skosh.
A skosh. Okay, great.
So the second A is ability. And that means, sometimes you don't have the third A right away, the assets. So, but if you have the ability and you've shown that you're willing to save money and you're willing to look at protection strategies for your family, meaning life insurance and those sorts of things, and you're in those early years of earnings, and maybe you just need some financial planning for a fee.
Right.
We can do those sorts of things. So
yeah, again, going back to some of those misconceptions that the way the industry used to be, where it was, mostly transactional, kind of a cold feeling to most people. And we're trying to educate and break down some of those barriers. And part of the ability is taking advice, having that attitude, implementing some of the strategies that we're putting into place, because again, it's not a sprint. This is a marathon, and we want to make sure that we're along for that.
Yep. And so the third one is assets. And generally speaking, we're looking for a level of maybe $300,000 in investable assets, but that is not a hard number.
No,
it is, again, if the ability is there and the attitude is there, we'll waive that.
Absolutely. It's they're all commingled, all intertwined, but really the attitude does set the, the floor.
It does. So that is the early part of the process. And when we come back, we'll talk about, well, what happens after that fit meeting?
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I know you're listening to the podcast Financial Flight Academy, and we are so happy you're here. If you have any questions, please head over to soarwealthstrategies.com or the show notes to find out how to reach us. We would love to hear from you. Okay, so we're back. Welcome back to Financial Flight Academy. Now we're going to go and move on from the fit meeting process and to the first appointment process. And this is where we're going to do some information gathering. We're going to discuss your goals. We're going to review your risk tolerance. We're going to talk about, how you feel about money in general, because to your point earlier, things are really nice when the market's up.
Yeah, it's easy, right?
And my risk tolerance is quite high when the market's up, John.
Yes, it is. And what we find sometimes is when markets start to drop, people's risk tolerance drops with it. So the key for us is, let's get that plan in place that you're not going to abandon when these times happen, like last year, that we know will. It's on average, once every 4 years, you're going to have a down year in the stock market. And so we plan for those things. You have bucket strategies, short-term buckets of money, intermediate-term buckets of money, and your long-term money. And you should never dedicate short-term money to a stock portfolio.
Right. And again, this goes back to really understanding how clients feel about money. We don't want to make any knee-jerk or irrational decisions in the short term that can dramatically affect us when it comes to long-term goal planning.
Correct. Yep. So we use the acronym SOAR.
Oh, that's clever.
I know, because that's our name, Soar Wealth Strategies. I thought that was really smart.
Yeah.
Or
spot on.
Memorable.
Well done.
So the S stands for your support system. Who are those people that are important to you in your family? Kids, spouse, but do you have to take care of your parents, maybe, or potentially at some point in your life? Is there a special needs child in the mix that we need to consider? And that gets into estate planning options and things where we will work with an attorney. If you don't have an attorney, we'll bring one in for you and
it also
have those discussions.
Right. And that support system leads into, I want to make sure I provide for my spouse if something happens to me. Right. I mean, so when we talk about that support system, it would be irresponsible of me not to have life insurance for my wife should something happen to me.
Correct. And things like an emergency fund. Again, like you mentioned, the life insurance. So protecting against the unexpected, which always sounds kind of funny to people. Well, how do you protect? It's unexpected. How do you protect against it? Well, we've seen a lot. And that's so
we want to avoid the GoFundMe pages.
That is correct. That is correct. So and once you get past the S in SOAR, the support system, we talk about the O, which is your occupation.
Right. What's your plans for, where you work? What does your company provide from a retirement plan standpoint? Benefits, right.
Yes. Do you have disability insurance? When do you want to make work optional for you? A lot of people call that retirement.
Yes.
But a work optional lifestyle. So everybody's different. I know that if I were at home, retired completely, I would probably balloon up to about 700 pounds, because all I do when I'm at home is look for things to eat, which I don't need. I need to be occupied. So I'll do this as long as I can. But other people, the most common answer we get when we ask, well, would you like to make work optional for you? Yesterday is the most common answer.
It is.
Yeah. So it's different for everybody. And that's part of our job, is to see, well, can we make those things happen? Yesterday, we can't make happen.
No.
Generally speaking,
Right.
I've never been able to accomplish that
haven't.
one, but those are things we look at.
So now we move on to the A, which is aspirations, right?
Yes.
What are those goals? What does that retirement look like? Well, I really like to own a boat, or I'd really like to have a second home.
Travel.
Right. I really want to put something away for those grandchildren. How do we do that tax efficiently?
Maybe we have charitable intent.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, and maybe it's a hobby I want to fund. I mean, these are all the things that we want to talk about and get to know about you before. You can't implement or start a plan if you don't know these things. We have to have some things we want to accomplish.
Right. And the last is R, which is recreation. And this is the fun part, because there's nothing more fun than when you can tell a client that they can retire and their cash flow is going to be fine. And more importantly, to send them money for that retirement trip.
Right.
Or that's the fun part.
Yeah. I want to go, I had a client tell me one time, I'm 60. I want to go to Cooperstown with the family to see the Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's on my list.
Yeah. And well, when are we going to get this done?
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get a plan in place to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the fun things to talk about. And so you want to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame as well?
I do.
You know that some of my work, Brent, is in the Professional Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, really, John?
Yes. I don't like to talk about
Tell
it.
me the story.
I'm sure they're going to probably ask me about my bust and when, where I want it positioned in the Pro Football Hall
Call
of
into
Fame.
the office and John would be happy to share that story.
No, I was never. Yes. It's just, I shot some video on John Madden's The Madden Cruiser. So back in the days when I worked in Green Bay. So yes, fascinating stuff. I'm not seen in the video, but there you go.
All right.
That was a fun day. Mr. Madden was very nice. All right. So that gets us through the first appointment. That's probably the most time-consuming appointment, because that's where you got to provide your financial numbers. And again, want you to be honest about it, because we can't, if we don't know about a debt that's hanging out there, right. And there's a certain furniture mart that everyone has debt at here in Omaha.
There is. Yes. Well, and both spouses or decision makers need to be there. Right.
Yes.
Right. We have to be open and honest with everybody. We can't hide information from,
right.
From each spouse.
Correct.
I mean, it sometimes turned into a counseling session, but that's okay.
Yep.
That's part of that attitude and that open, honest policy that we have.
Yeah, that's right. So that moves us on to the second appointment. We take a couple of weeks. We do our nerd work here. We develop the personalized strategies just for you after we've gathered the data and analyzed all the things that are going on in your life. So then a couple of weeks later, we bring you back for the second appointment, which I know in some people's mind, well, we did that fit meeting. Wasn't that the first appointment? Well, no, it's not really an appointment. It's just to get to know you. So if you're scoring at home, we don't count that one. So the second appointment, it's just a funny thing we do. So the second appointment is where we start implementing your financial flight plan. See what we did there? We got an eagle, Soar Wealth Strategies.
It's all tied together.
Financial flight plan. It's clever, I know. And you're going to know your cost of doing business with us at that meeting. And then we talk about the implementation. How are we going to get this done? And that's really, we talk about your tolerance for risk in that first appointment. And that's really where you should start getting comfortable being able to breathe a sigh of relief when we talk about these. Okay, how are we going to weave that risk tolerance with what your goals are?
Right. And then soon after that appointment, we have what's called a 45-day call after that implementation. And this is where you really get to know our client relationship managers more. Karen and Penny, they do a phenomenal job.
Yes, they are amazing.
We want to make sure that you can go online, have access to your tax documents and statements, be able to find all the information you need. It's
see that snapshot of your accounts, and everything you have with us. You can even upload other accounts so that you can see everything on one page. It's fantastic.
Right. And we joke around because John and I do the nerd work behind the scenes, and those two really run the show.
They do the work that's necessary, right? You need money. Oh, you're talking to Penny and Karen.
Did we hire a Kenny?
I don't know. I get going a little fast sometimes, Brent. But they really get some of those things done, and just do a fantastic job, and everyone likes them better than us. It's a little insulting, but that's okay.
Let's skip over that part.
So in that 45-day call, we're going to ask you about any questions you might have, things about your statements, clarification of the plan, which should have been clear in the second appointment meeting. Right. But, and then the communication is ongoing, right? You think about your life and the things that were important to you 5 years ago, and this kind of holds true throughout your life. Those things that were important to you 5 years ago, they've changed.
Right.
And so that's why this is an ongoing process of, well, what's changed? The kids have decided going to get a doctorate and we want to help pay for it. Oh, okay.
Or they decided to move back into the basement.
Yes. That's that does happen occasionally. So it's this ongoing review of things, and we call in between appointments, right? It's at least an annual review, but we're constantly monitoring folks' accounts to see, do we need to make any adjustments?
Right.
And we're talking about on a macro level, we're talking about that as all the time when we have our beginning of the year meeting. It's okay, what are some of our assumptions about what's coming up, or what's happening in the world right now?
And this is important because the overlying theme here is communication. There's some clients that would like to be contacted more than others.
Yes.
There's certain times in your life where you need to be contacted more than others. We talk about this, little teaser here, the fragile decade.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Call and talk to us about that.
Yeah. The 5 years before retirement and the 5 years after. Big adjustment time.
Right. Right.
And we didn't invent that term, by the way. But yes.
But
it's a great.
Obviously, there are going to be some little bit more in-depth and probably more meetings that need to take place during that time frame. So again, we're going to tailor this communication stream to what we need and what you want.
Right. And so you mentioned that fragile decade. That's when we see the most concern on the part of some folks is, hey, Jon, Brent, I've worked all my life, and I know you're telling me it's going to be okay that I hang it up and make work optional. I'm taking that option of not working. But that's kind of hard for me to believe that now I can start taking that money out and make this work.
Especially right now with some volatility in the market.
Sequence of withdrawals, kind of an important thing. It's a nerd term, but pretty easy to understand. If you retire during a down market, it's not as comfortable as when you retire in an up market. Pretty simple way of looking at it. But so those are all things that we work with folks on. And I think generally speaking, when you're really close to retiring in those first couple of years after retirement, we're probably meeting a little more than when we're in that accumulation phase and just trying to survive with young kids and those sorts of things.
Well, and one thing that is important to us is that when you're looking for a team or a company to work with, you talk to several people.
Right.
And
I always encourage that. Don't just talk to us. Go talk to some other people.
Absolutely.
Go talk to those guys in that big building over there.
There you go.
That's fine.
Yeah. Do what you need to do. And you have to, at the end of the day, feel comfortable with the person that's sitting, across the table from you,
Yeah, it's a trust thing. And again, we always talk about, well, where do I start? If you get a referral to an advisor, have a conversation with them, but also go to FINRA Broker Check. That's the first place to start and see, well, does this person have any complaints against them? They call them disclosures on that page. So that's FINRA Broker Check. Anyway, that is our process, Brent.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's, the Rockets, the markets have been rocky.
And the Rockets were murky last year.
That's right. Too. Yeah. So, there's always going to be some scary news or some things out there. And again, this is why we want to partner with the right people to make sure that we can soar above
Oh,
the turmoil.
I like what you did there.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. There's always that question of, well, is this the right time to invest, or should I just bury my money in the backyard? Generally not a good strategy, but we're here to help you tune out some of that noise. If you'd like to schedule a fit meeting with us, you can call the office at 531-867-3400.
Yeah, and check out our website. There's a lot of really good information on there, including a link to Financial Flight Academy.
That's right.
It's on all the major podcast
the major podcast platforms.
And I'll give a shout out to Proudmouth, who helps us put this show on. They do a fantastic job.
Yes, and Patrice, who's sitting there listening to this every time we do it and thinking, wow.
But she always says it's good.
She does. I don't know if she believes it, but she does say it's good. So
she's the best.
Yeah. Check out that website, soarwealthstrategies.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and you'll hear from us next time on Financial Flight Academy.
Hey guys, this was really good. This was a good one.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because we mentioned you.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Flight Academy podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at soarwealthstrategies.com or give us a call at 531-867-3400. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Soar Wealth Strategies. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Securities and advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.